Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to round 11 of season 14 WOR. We are heading not to Monza. I actually got that wrong. That's on me. But we're heading to Imola. So just go about what, 3 hours southeast, and then you get to Imola, and we're heading to the track there. And I'm again joined by the wonderful, spectacularly young, epic freestyler number 8. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm very good. Hello, everybody. It's nice to be back again this week. Imola, interesting track, of course. Return to the calendar back in 2020, where we have had quite a few interesting races, especially in 2021 and 2022. One of those memorable points was when Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton into turn 2 had a bit of a, not so much a collision, but Lewis Hamilton got pushed onto, I believe it was the sausage curbs on the inside of turn 2. But it's quite interesting, isn't it? The track, it's very different from its counterpart of Monza, like you said. And I just get excited when we come to Monza because it's just such an interesting track. It's one of those ones where you can't, it's not like you can master it entirely, but you're not entirely bad at it either.
Yeah, Monza is one of those that it's easier, but as mentioned, we're at Imola, and that's a completely different ballpark. A very technical style of circuit with areas of where you can easily invalidate. The thing is, this track, yes, has been upgraded to a safety rating of 1, which in the FIA rulebook, if it's a safety rating 1, it is F1 worthy. It can handle some of the most extreme conditions. But they haven't actually updated the layout since, well, they have updated it since the death of Ayrton Senna, which was around about, I think that was turn 4. They reprofiled that corner slightly. But the thing is, since the updates from there has been no adaptation designed towards F1. So you get corners like turn 5 and 6, which are extremely awkward. And then also corners like turn 11, 12, and 13, which again, is very awkward and difficult to drive on, but which brings out its technicality on this track. It's not my cup of tea.
Neither is it mine, to be honest. I just think that you've got to go to this track with an open mind, because anything can happen, as we know from real life F1 and also from sim racing. It's such a, how would you say, it's such a different track. It's such a special track compared to others, where you can't exactly push the limits, but you can't find a middle though with the track. You've got to choose which side you want to be on, whether it's tyre wear or how much you're pushing or whatever. And that's what really interests me, is that this track will really show what the drivers are capable when they've got to be cool-headed, or when they've even got to push everything they've got when they're under a lot of pressure, because this track can produce some really good racing, but some really close and difficult moments.
Yeah, and just to add to that complexity is also the weather conditions. We're in Italy, northern Italy still, and not all weather conditions in northern Italy is as glamorous as you see on Hollywood TV. No, you take 2021, we had absolute torrential rain, which actually I think it did delay the start very slightly, and then eventually it dried out. But then you go into sim racing. Of course, sim racing conditions are of the previous history of that area, so they take the statistics of the area, put that into the game. So you get things like China, which is about what, 70% chance of rain within that race. I think that's a little too high, but that's the only statistic I know like that. But yeah, Italy is one of those where it's a very much 50-50. Are you going to get rain or are you going to get it dry, which then adds to that complexity to an already difficult track.
I agree with you 100%. But should we now get on to the Drivers' Championship? Of course, off of last race, Andres Lopez increased his championship lead only by 4 points over Alexander Dimas in second place. Currently, Andres Lopez, 140 points compared to Alexander Dimas, 112. This is quite interesting. I don't think we've ever had really a championship in such a high tier of PC in WOR, where there's such a big gap between first and second, 28 points. But of course, all of it can be made up in this race. It all comes down, though, to last race. We saw both of these drivers did struggle a bit around the track of Abu Dhabi. for the first time in quite a while, both drivers have been outside of the top 5, especially for Andres Lopez. Is there something that is going to be in the back of their minds going, we might struggle again this race? Or is it going to be try and go for that win? Are they going to clear their minds coming into this race?
Lopez definitely is going to have in the back of the mind, I've got a good lead, I'm feeling well, I'm feeling confident with that 28-point gap. Dimas is the one that really needs to sit down and take a long, hard look at himself. Because you look at his board, I don't have the... I could probably quickly whip up a view of the standings, but nonetheless, the first 2 races was nowhere to be seen, and then Denny was on a good streak, second, third, win, third. And then since they've been in, I guess he just does not get along with the Middle Eastern circuits, was nowhere to be seen, 1 point, 2 point, 4 point, and that's really damaged his ability to fight in this championship. Dimas is capable of it. We know that he can. We've seen that he can, and I know in other leagues as well, he is a very capable driver of winning. Is this lineup different? Yes, it is massively different, but there's a lot of familiar faces, and he shouldn't be down near the back.
100%. Honestly, looking behind him though, does he have to go more on the defensive now? Because in the last race, Cordal, and especially Cordal, gained a total of 8 points on him. Now, only sits around 17 points behind at the moment. Has he got to do a bit of defending now against drivers like Maloney and Cordal, hoping, just sort of praying that he won't get overtaken by them in the championship?
Don't think necessarily looking on the back foot. He definitely will be needing to... I think he'll be mainly focusing ahead. That is my personal opinion, but we'll have to wait and see. As we are going to get underway with qualifying, the first drivers to go out with only 16 cars today on the grid. So we're missing a few. And Dimas is amongst the group that is racing today. And Lopez is racing. So our 2 championship contenders are racing. But that's a major help, by the way, for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, I do think it's gonna really come close in this track. It's a short one. It's not one of the longest tracks. It's not like Abu Dhabi, which of course was shortened, but still on overall distance, it's still quite long. But this is gonna be a really important race for both Andres Lopez and Alexander Dimas, because if Alexander Dimas does not close up today, and he actually loses out more points, he'll only have 3 more races after this when we go to China, Great Britain, and then Austria for the finale, where he will be able to close in and fight for the championship. So for me, I almost feel like this race could be a bit of a championship decider on where it's going to go for the next 3 races. It
very well could, and it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. But talking of unfolding, let's see how this lap from Maloney unfolds. Epic, you got Maloney on your screen?
Yeah, here we go. Starting off on the long pit straight. It is quite a long straight. The only DRS zone on the whole track. Into turn 1, braking around 70 to 60 meters. Going through turn 1, 2, and 3. Car off the track. Disqualified is not Frankie. Now going down into turn 4 and 5 for left, right. Very good, very strong through there, I have to say. Into the hairpin. Famous hairpin, of course, where Michael Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya had a bit of an incident there about 20 years ago. Now into the fast left-hander. One of the tricky corners for track limits. Maloney goes safe just to make sure nothing goes wrong. Now into the 2 of the most difficult corners on the track, I would say. Coming off the exit. Very good, very fast through there. Keeping it very nice and tight now into the right-left, where we saw Charles Leclerc spin it into the wall, although he was able to carry on, and that was from last year. Onto the last proper straight of the track. Now into the last 2 corners, difficult to gauge. Are you going to lock up the brakes? Maloney doesn't. He keeps it very nice, keeping it to the apex of the last corner, out of the last corner, onto the straight, picks up DRS, and up to the line. It's a 1:15.0. A very, very good first lap there.
Yeah, a nice strong first lap, 1:15. I'd be proud with that. Of course, we're going to see lap time drop down to the 1:14, but you made a very, very important point in that hot lap. track limits are going to be critical here. And especially as Ian van Unen goes and puts it into the 1 minute 14.9s, it's going to be these track limits. The track isn't wide, and it's very easy to run wide on this circuit. And especially these two corners, which you can see Dimas running through turns 14 and 15, you cut a lot of the corner. So many opportunities to get invalidations. Coming into the race, we're going to see a lot of time penalties also unfold as well, as Lopez is unable to beat Ian van Unen. So door is open for Dimas. Can he find his pace on the European circuits? I think he's a bit of a European man.
100%. He's definitely shown he's got pace this season from Alexander Dimas. I do think, in my opinion, you might have a different one, but Alexander Dimas has been a bit unlucky this season. He's had a few moments where cars have tangled with him, especially in those first two races where he did have quite a few problems off of like race starts and midway through the race. This is it almost feels like this is the last chance, almost the last hope for Alexander Dimas to reclaim anything on Andres Lopez before the championship is out of sight, really, for Alexander Dimas, sort of out of reach as well.
Dimas would need essentially win here and then win in China and Lopez not to perform well. That's for his greatest opportunity to really come back and have a shot at this championship, which is not undoable. That is a very doable situation for himself, but Lopez is on a tear. If we could look back at some of the previous results, DNF in Brazil, didn't get any points in Cota. Then win, second place. Did not finish in Portugal. Second place, third, and then only get 8 points in the United Arab Emirates of Abu Dhabi. That is a very strong run and very scary to see from him.
Well, I agree completely with that. It's a very scary run, but it's also almost like a run that you would see from some of the top drivers we've seen in the past. But one scary run that is almost the opposite of that is the driver of one driver that we have spoken about quite a lot is Tuomas Lamminen. He hasn't had the best of run lately. Double DNF in Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. He also DNF'd in Portugal. He also DNF'd back in Belgium and Azerbaijan as well. So he's DNF'd quite a few times this season, total of now 5 times in just 10 races. The only time he won was back in France in round 7, which that was actually quite a good win as well. But it's almost like from the start of the season, Tuomas Lamminen has almost lost his, also known as tax if you wanted to know, just in case. He went from being very consistent, 3rd in Brazil and then 4th in USA, to then he's almost lost his confidence. We've spoken about this, but it's not like he sort of lost his confidence. He's still got that confidence. He still drives incredibly well and incredibly quickly. I don't know what you sort of call it. It's more almost like it's almost like something's restricting him. And it doesn't seem to be his driving. It more seems to be possibly mentally, or it could just be the other drivers around him where he gets into problems. And we have seen him have quite a few collisions this year.
Yeah, Tax has very much been that story driver where you know he's quick, but he's not consistent. I think that's the phrase we should be saying. He's not consistent in his driving. He puts in brilliant qualifying times. He shows us that he's capable of doing things. But when you pile it on together, it just doesn't work for him. And, you know, we love Tax. We love Tuomas Lamminen here in the commentary box because he does put on a show. He's an aggressive driver. And especially when he was rivaled up against Dmitry Minik last race in Abu Dhabi, they both, well, I say both, Lamminen showed that he loves the fight and he enjoys that position of fighting, but when he's left by himself, it almost like boredom kicks in and it just doesn't work for him.
Of course, talk about Tuomas Lamminen. He has beaten Alexander Dimas at the top of the times, currently on provisional pole. Big lap from Tuomas Lamminen as well. Only around 200s ahead. Is this is this almost a bit of a comeback for him, where he is starting to find his pace again. He is starting to find that he's getting closer and closer to these leaders. I do quickly just want to talk about one driver, and that's Tim Aldis, your man, as you called him once.
I said it once, my guy. I said once he was going to be good, and he's not performed. I ain't talking about him until he performs again.
No, you can't say that now, because he went from having not a great run for the first around 7 races of the season. He didn't particularly have a great run there. And then in the last 3 races, he's actually had pretty good form. 7th in Bahrain, he then got 4th in Abu Dhabi, and got 2nd, his first podium of the season, in Abu Dhabi. And he is now in the running where he could, realistically, as his pace has been getting a lot better, he could be challenging for 3rd in the championship. And so there is a lot of talk now around not just the battle for the championship, but also this battle for 3rd. And all these places going down to 6th, because anybody could take any position. All he needs is just a little bit more pace, a little bit more consistency, and just keep on ramping up, keep getting on the podium, and he will be into that top 3. It just depends on, will the pressure get to him, or will he just be able just to be able to succeed, or is he gonna feel the pressure and struggle?
Well, we're about to see what does happen. 7 minutes 55 seconds left on the clock, and as it stands, Lopez is going to hold the pole position. He is performing very well today, but Dimas has found his pace in the European track, and as mentioned, I don't think the Middle Eastern tracks suited him all too well, but technicality is in his favour. Who isn't not performing well at the moment? Well, we've seen Cordor down in P15 on his outlap, but this seems to be a common trend from Cordor. He doesn't like to put on a show off the start. He doesn't necessarily go out there, put in a fast lap and go, yeah, look at me, I am on top of the world. He almost eases himself in. That first lap warms him up, and this is a common theme we're seeing here in WOR and in his other leagues where he's racing. He's taking it calm, building up that kind of knowledge of the track in that network conditions, because I think it's definitely a network condition he's working out, and then he goes to put in his laps. Usually his last lap being a phenomenal out of the park, puts him into securely top 5 position.
Yeah, I can't argue with you on that, to be honest. I do think Cordor needs to be able to put together those laps, though, because he's currently last, except for not Frankie, who was disqualified. Not with long to go either, so it just looks like he keeps on invalidating on his laps, even though it does look like he is pushing. I'm currently on board with Tuomas Laminen, actually, and he is improving, and at the moment, he is on for provisional pole. So he's actually sticking in a very good lap at the moment, about 10th and a half up. There's a lot to talk about, though. Like you've said, there's a lot to talk about. But a driver that I do feel is struggling lately is Tristan. Trademark Tristan, to be specific.
Tristan. Yes.
He won back in Bahrain on a very good run. That was one of the best strategies we've seen from the French driver. But since then, he hasn't had much luck. A DNF in Saudi Arabia and no points in Abu Dhabi. Overall, he hadn't scored that many points anyway, only 11 points before he got his win. But he was keeping a good run, wasn't he? It was 10th, then 6th, then 10th again, and then that win. I've almost felt a little bit, almost slightly disappointed, because I thought Tristan was on a run. I thought he really got up there and he was really fighting for those positions. But again today in qualifying, it's almost showing me once again that he just doesn't have... It just seems like he's not the same as he was in that run. It almost feels like he's not so much lost confidence, but almost lost consistency.
I can half agree. I half agree in the statement that, yeah, he was almost building his way up to getting that win. But at the same time, I feel that win, and no offense to Tristan, if you ever watch this back, I don't want you to feel that I am degrading your performance or saying that performance was any less than what it was. It was a spectacular, well-planned win, but it did have a lot of element of luck, and he's as you can see from his results, he's not fighting for this front. He's not necessarily looking to be a consistent winner. So that, for him, was very much, yes, I got the points, I did well, and, you know, all singing and dancing, but he's out of position. It's like when Vettel put himself on pole in the Aston Martin. Not on pole, and put him on the podium. That wasn't meant to happen. No one... It just was inconsistent. When McLaren went 1-2 in Monza in 2021, sorry. That, again, even I'm sitting there going, that ain't supposed to happen. Maybe third, but not a 1-2. It's one of those. It's well thought, well done. Everything he did on the day was perfect, and you can't fault, but it just doesn't fit the norm.
Now,
that's me.
There is one driver who is outperforming, you know, what we've used to seeing him. We know he's a very good driver, but it's Ian Van Oonen. He's returned once again, the Aston Martin driver. He's taken a bit of a break. Wasn't in the last race. He got 6th the race before. DNF, didn't turn up for the 2 races before, and DNF'd, and then didn't score points, and then DNF. So he hasn't had a great run lately. He scored 14 points in those first 2 races, so he currently sits on 23 points, sorry, as he took fastest lap in 1 race. Does the Dutch driver need to really have a big comeback here? I know it's towards the end of the season, but I can see him wanting to get into that top 10 in the championship, you know, especially with drivers like Tristan, you know, Jack Ann, who hasn't turned up for a while. You know, could you see him getting into that top 10 in the championship if this race goes well?
Theoretically, Ian Van Oonen has every potential to do that. You saw him racing, I think if I got my timeline right, him battling in Kota was one of the most spectacular things. Just being amongst the rest of the pack, sitting calmly as well, knowing when to pounce, when not to pounce. So Van Oonen is a very experienced driver in the sense that he knows when he needs to do something. So with a good run, yes, of course, he's naturally going to push himself up. Is he due for a win? Possibly. You know, every driver is due for a win. They're definitely due for some great spectacular. Let's see what it comes out as. Just to give you a heads up, 1:45 left of the clock, and the driver's only just leaving the pitch. You can see them getting out of the way. They will need to pelt it round this lap, because we're getting down to the final runs. It's Stefano Ramos? Ramazio. I got the Stefano bit, so Stefano, we got your name right in one sense. On his final run, but there's a lot of traffic in the way, and it's not going to be clean sailing, and that's him backing out because it wasn't a clean sailing lap.
He only equaled his first sector, which I still think was quite early to back off for only equaling. It did look like he lost a bit of time out of the hairpin. But another driver on a hot lap currently is Ivan Santamaria. He's had some good performances this season, currently sitting in 9th in the championship. He's definitely one of the drivers that you can't lie. He's one of these drivers that comes out of nowhere when it gets to the races. It's like 1 minute he's sitting maybe in 10th or 11th, and then he's there in 5th. And he's just had this great strategy, or he's just come out of nowhere and overtaken a load of drivers and waited for that perfect moment. But as I'm saying about that, coming up to the line, Ivan Santamaria goes P11, so not a massive improvement, almost around 2/10, still not enough to get inside of the top 10.
Yeah, he does have those odd performances here and there that does surprise us all, but he is, and you can see from his point scoring, there's a lot of zeros in there, particularly at the start of the season, but the latter end of the season, he's had some good luck, some good strategy that has pushed him into a stronger position. So he'll be happy with where he is. He's happy with what he's doing, but can he sit there comfortably and say that he's had the best season? Well, we're about to find out as we're watching the remaining drivers as the timer has elapsed. We're following Cordor. He is improving. This is potential for pole, but this third sector, and particularly turns 14 and 15, is catching a lot of drivers out, rounding those corners. So let's see, what can Cordor do? Round the final 2 corners, turn 17 and 18. Then it's a slight kink for turn 19. Tax, aka Laminen, does cross the line. He will put it on pole. Corridor is denied of it. So that's added a little bit of spice. But Dimas finds himself on pole. Can Luke Lopez push it up there? It's going to be second place for Lopez. And Dimas, the championship challenger, is in on the pole at the moment. A day and a time Dimas needs to step up his game. He's done it correctly.
100. I mean, that is some lap from the Haas driver. Really good lap as well. I was on board with a lot of that. He just seems so calm in the car. I think this is something we've seen with Alexander Dimas. When he's got the setup right and he feels comfortable, he really is calm and he really finds that time. Only 8 thousandths between him and his rival Andres Lopez, but it's all he needs. You know, that's all you need. You know, to get pole, and he's been able to do it here in Imola at a track where we weren't 100% sure that he would. We knew he was more comfortable at more Europe tracks, but yeah, we weren't 100% sure that he was going to do it because Andres Lopez has had such a good run, and because especially early on in this qualifying session, also Tuomas Laminen was also having quite a very good qualifying session, you know, going fastest at best of best at the start. But Alexander Dimas found, you know, 2/10 in that lap time out of nowhere, and really only Andres Lopez is the only other driver to really find that lap time.
Yeah, and talking of positions, quick rundown. Dimas will take pole with Lopez coming up second. Laminen in third. Stefano finding himself in fourth. Corridor in fifth. Ian Van Unen in sixth. Alders in at seventh. Maloney, champion from season 10, in eighth. Kinty in ninth. Glad to see the Ferrari driver back and racing. Danico finding himself down in 10th. Candy King in 11th. Santa Maria in 12th. M2T, or Mittens, I think, in 12th, and I didn't get the rest.
We'll see it anyway in a minute.
We'll see them lined up with the T-posing men.
I will just guess. Honestly, that was a very good qualifying session, a very close one. And ultimately, I would say that is potentially one of the most important, as we see once again the pit crew doing some T-posing. Honestly, that is, I have to say, one of the closest qualifyings we've had this year, on this season. And we've also had, I think this could be the most important qualifying and possibly the most important race of the entire season. Because if Lopez beats Alexander Dimas here, we could be seeing Andres Lopez sort of become more calm because he might think that he's almost won the championship. And for me, if Dimas makes a big mistake and he loses a lot of points, I would say that the championship is almost over. If Andres Lopez wins and, for instance, Alexander Dimas gets below 8th. But there's a lot that could happen. It's such an exciting track.
It is. A lot could happen. The lights start to go on. You see the Haas driver positioned himself on the outside. It's favourable to the inside. It's lights out and we're racing here in Imola. And what a start by Dimas. Holding confidence. Confidence is key in any situation you find yourself in. But you can see the Red Bull driver trying to find what he can down the inside. But Stefano is going to get himself involved with the front runners. And Stefano puts himself ahead of Corridor. But it's going to be a gap and a pull away from the front two. Lopez and Dimas away from all the drama. And Laminen is under threat. And that's going to be 2 spinning. That's MTZ. And it's going to be Santa Maria spinning in the background. Van Unen finding himself into P6. He's gained a few positions from himself. But Laminen is still threatened behind by the rest of the pack. And he's not able to get a break from the pressure that comes from behind.
Oh, really tough start there for Tuomas Laminen. Bit hard to watch, to be honest. But it's still a good defense though. He didn't use as much ERS than anybody else off of that start. Everybody else was draining their battery into turn 1. He didn't. And now coming into the second to last corner, is Tuomas Laminen going to go for it? No, he isn't. He's waiting for Corridor to make a mistake, or maybe is he waiting for turn 1? But like you said, a very good getaway from his grid spot for Alexander Dimas as he sets fastest lap straight away. Very close though between him and Andres Lopez, but that start was what he needed. And here comes Tuomas Laminen. Is he going to go for the move? He could be no, he backs out at the last moment into turn 1.
Yeah, great positioning by Cordor. He's just lining up the car, making sure that the move doesn't come easily to the Red Bull driver. And I've mentioned time before and time again, Cordor is a pain to get past. The Ministry of Defense, you could almost give the title to, because Cordor will position that car in such an awkward manner, but you can know that Laminin will not give in. He's an aggressive style of driver that won't stop attacking.
Really, Cordor has to maybe think about attacking Stefano in front and also Andres Lopez instead of trying to defend from Thomas Laminin so hard, as if he does push to catch up, he might actually find more time, as he does get a bit of a lock-up into those last 2 corners. One tough start has come for a driver, and that is for Kine, who's lost out 2 places. Just looked like he didn't get away from the line that well, as I did look further back in the grid. It just seemed like he got a bit of wheel spin and had to let off the throttle, and that just lost him a bit of time. But still, Alexander Dimas holding a very important reign over this lead, over this race, sorry. And it's going to be important for him, as long as he can keep on doing this. He is going to be somebody to be worried about. And it's not only him to be worried about, he's going to be worried about Andres Lopez, his championship rival, who he is trying to catch.
Yes.
So at the moment, Andres Lopez is going faster.
Yeah, I was going to drop in for a few seconds as Ian van Unen gets spun by Tim Alders. Alders going for the move into turn 5 and 6. It's not an easy area to make the overtake as the awkward braking zone it holds, but it looked interesting. Maloney was at the rear end of it all, watching it all unfold. And you said about Kine not having a great start. Well, that's a position up for himself, and that is putting himself into P10 and right up the rear end of Candy King as well. So there is potential and opportunities to come, but the first break and the first break of the train will be from Tim Alders. 1.5 second gap in P6, so no DRS for himself, especially as DRS has just been enabled. And I'm just going to drop it all the way to Laminin, who is going to get the first opportunity to try and attack. He's been wanting to get past Cordor for most of this race, even though it's been 4 laps. He's been wanting to get past. He's up the rear end. Is there any position there? He looks to the inside, but it's just a little fake for now.
Yeah, he's just trying to catch. Oh, bit of a slide there. And same for Cordor, who makes quite a big mistake out of turn 3. We've seen that quite a lot, though, where the grip just seems to leave the tyres and leave the car and just goes off slightly. But it is showing that Thomas Laminin is able to put a bit of pressure on Cordor, and that is making Cordor make very small mistakes. It just depends on who will make a bigger mistake at what point. And that's where we're really going to see the big differences. But Andres Lopez is struggling slightly in this race to keep up with Alexander Dimas, as he has got some pressure. He's not used to this exactly. For most races, as we see, there's a spinner around it. I believe it's Nadi Perez who's spun round.
Caught on stream as well.
There's an overtake, actually. Maloney gets past Danny Coe as Danny Coe goes off, actually. So not a decent start, still up 2 places, but Maloney is coming back through. But as I was saying, Andres Lopez can't rest like he usually does, where he gains a bit of a lead off the first couple of laps, and he's able just to relax, as he's still got the Aston Martin of Stefano behind Cordor and Thomas Laminin, as we see Thomas Laminin coming in on Cordor round the outside, going into turn 1. What can he do? He brakes early, he keeps it safe. Maybe he wants to get the switch back now, coming onto the second straight. Oh, bit of a slide there, but he's going to leave it for now. Not close enough, but very good there.
A very good attempt from Laminin. He used a lot of ERS to make that move, but he's going to look possibly down the inside into turn 7. There is an opportunity there to make a move, but you're going to have a good exit off turn 6, and then you can make that move. Laminin's applying this pressure onto Cordor, but Cordor's not budging. He's not shaken the way you wanted to, so the mind game isn't working for the Red Bull driver. So instead, it's going to be argy-bargy, get your way through, but maybe the pressure has got to him, because Cordor has just landed himself a 3-second time penalty, and I said track limits are going to be a very big thing here. And that just goes to show that even under the pressure of the Red Bull, you can't keep your car between the lines. Ian van Unen also falling dividend to the black and white flag and 3 seconds added on for himself. But here comes another run. The question is Laminin going to go for another strong ERS-propelled attack? It doesn't look to be this time. He knows he had that one opportunity, and it's gone. While Maloney is also making his way up through the field.
Like we were saying earlier, this battle over third in the championship, Maloney is still in there. He officially, he could still get second. It depends, of course, on this race, because if Alexander Dimas wins, that's going to be a big gap. But this is all Maloney needs. Just need to climb up through the field, especially with drivers like Tumas Laminin and Cordor fighting. It's going to get him back in contention for possibly a podium here. And that's going to be very important if Maloney can do that. But also, what's another important thing is coming right from the front of the grid, and that's between Alexander Dimas and Andres Lopez. Last lap, we saw that Alexander Dimas got ahead by just over a second at the DRS line, which was DRS detection line, which was very important for him, shows where he is on pace. And once again, it just goes over a second as there's another yellow flag. It is Ian Van Unen once again. I'm not sure what's happened there. Maybe he had a bit of a spin, but he's gotten back on track pretty quickly. But once again, it looks like Andres Lopez is out of DRS. No, he's not. He is still got DRS. He's got him back within DRS right now. But we're seeing once again Tumas Laminin using his DRS aggressively. Here he comes onto the pit straight now, round the outside. He wants to make the move. What can Cordor do? Still side by side. It's almost like Verstappen and Hamilton back in 2021. But Tumas Laminin makes the move.
Yeah, Laminin knew that if he goes around the outside, he's got the inside line into turn 3. So you have to play patient. Into turn 3. He has to wait patiently to stick it round the outside and just hold his line. It gets aggressive, it gets your elbows out, and I know the drivers don't necessarily like the move down there because it goes into the steward's room, but it's a necessary move for himself, especially because he wants to push himself further up this grid. He knows that Alexander Dimas and Lopez aren't too far out the reach. They are potentially within shot of a position for him. He could find himself up there in first, and you can see wide going Cordor, who's going to use another track limit to try and stay close to the Red Bull driver.
Sadly, for some Dutch fans, if you are Dutch watching this, and also for a couple of Ian Van Unen fans, he chose to sadly retire from this race after having a bit of bad luck. Spun around twice, I believe, today. He has retired in the pits. Bit of a disappointing one, because I thought Ian Van Unen was really on for something today. It just seems like nothing has really gone his way, and luck hasn't been on his side.
It really hasn't, and it's sad to see, but he was nearly a whole lap down, and when you're that far back, I don't blame him for them retiring, because the likelihood of you being able to do something is that's going to be Cordor into the wall. Cordor is in the wall after his own accord, a little too much throttle, and that is around, I believe, turn 6. He has done that. Yeah, as you go into turn 8 here, and look, just no grip anymore.
It looks like he's damaged his rear wing, actually. So, probably with that impact, we did see, it was actually quite a heavy impact into that wall. So, he potentially might have rear wing damage, but he might not. Maybe just overheating tires. We will have to see. It does look like he has got a damaged rear wing. He just doesn't seem to really have much of a rear end on the car. This is, oh, Jesus, he's going for it. He's just cutting all of the corners.
I think he's retiring. If he's pulling up that many penalties, he's definitely going into the pits and retiring from this session. Which, again, I don't blame him. It's not been his race today. It's not been what he wanted it to be. So why continue at it? 5 yeah, there you go. That's the full confirmation. Retires from the pit. But I want to draw our attention back to the front, because Dimas had this really nice lead of a second, but that's now dropped all the way back to 0.6. It did drop down to 0.5, 0.4 in a few seconds. Lopez is making a good strike here, keeping with that Haas driver. So this race is not at all over.
I mean, we don't know who can take this lead. We don't know who's going to win, because it's all mind games, like you said. At this point in the race, they're all just trying to put each other off. They're all just trying to pressure each other. Even if you're in front of a driver, they're still trying to pressure them by possibly slowing them down a little bit, maybe braking a little bit differently each lap. So you're still going, you know, roughly the same pace with them, but it just means that they can't follow your line exactly. And this is going to be very important for Alexander Dimas. This is going to really show, and I think we've seen it from him before, but it's going to really show. Maybe he does at the moment have this just almost an advantage over Andres Lopez, and this could be important for his confidence going to the last 3 races after this one, where he might actually, you know, possibly get a bit of an advantage because of that, because it could be playing in Andres Lopez's mind that he couldn't get past Alexander Dimas for quite a while.
It very much could, and you are right in saying the mind games are definitely now being played here with Dimas in a stronger position. But in the long term, these guys do take a week break. They're doing other races. I don't think necessarily it will linger too much, and I don't think it will affect Dimas or Lopez, whoever it is. I don't think it will affect them too much. I think it will be come back to next race, reset, let's go. That's the way I see it. But I tell you who is up for a good fight. It's going to be Stefano in P3. You can see looking for moves that aren't really there. So he's closed up the gap to Lopez, looking to split the championship leader and the contender. And Lopez won't let this slide as easily because he knows this is points that we're talking about. Some very delicate points that he needs for this championship. As we're going to ride on board with the Aston Martin. ERS is enabled. He is definitely looking to make the move. And there you go. Look at Stefano's tyres. They're so much more healthier than if that would be Laminen's behind. He looks to the outside, well positioned by the AlphaTauri to defend. But the switchback at a good run through turns 2 and 3 might become favourable. But no, Lopez has got a brilliant run onto Dimas. But Dimas, again, he's holding position quite firmly and quite in a good position. And nothing will come of that run. And they're going to have to wait patiently for a bit longer.
Yes, I've just been looking at roughly where the lap time, where each driver is finding lap time. Alexander Dimas, definitely, even without Dirty Air in qualifying, he definitely had that cornering speed over every other driver. Fastest in most corners. While Andres Lopez is almost the reverse of that. Same with Stefano and Tumas Laminin, who both seem to be, all 3 of them are faster on the straights. And I don't think it's just because of DRS, because in qualifying they were also faster. So this could prove to be on Alexander Dimas' side. As you can see, he's pulled out about 8/10 here without really using much ERS, which is an important phase where one driver is just getting more comfortable in the lead. And this could throw off Andres Lopez, thinking that maybe his pressure isn't working on Alexander Dimas. But talking about another driver, and that's Stefano, he's going!
Yeah, it's Stefano going around the outside. He's going to try once again for the same move he tried before, but once again, the AlphaTauri of Lopez, you can plant that car in the middle of the track and it just defends enough and holds back your opponent. Back to you.
Yeah, as I was saying, you know, this is going to be a very important part of the race, is who is confident, who feels more comfortable as well, because at the moment I'm seeing Tumas Laminin not looking very comfortable in his car. Like you said before, his tyre wear is not on his side. ERS is on his side over Stefano, but he just seems to be lacking almost what we've talked about before of confidence with the track and being able to push it. And I think that's what's separating him on lap time between him and the top 3. But at the moment, he is actually starting to push now. I think he now knows that he might have the advantage over Stefano after Stefano went for those attacking runs on Andres Lopez. There is somebody who is also on the attack, and that's Tim Alders and Danny Coe chasing down Maloney for P5. And it's pretty close at the moment.
He's getting closer, for sure. I just want to make a brief point on Laminin. I think he's in that prime position where he doesn't have to do much. He doesn't need to attack necessarily. So he is staying back. Yes, he's not looking to the same pace that we normally see him, hence why he looks like he's struggling. But he is in that prime position where he doesn't have to do anything. Let the front guys squabble, pick up the scraps from there. But yeah, let's draw ourselves back to the P5 battle. Alders is on that slight attack. He is 0.8 behind naturally. He's slowly closing up, probably recharging, getting himself in a better position. But Danny Coe has really been the threat amongst this pack. Finding himself in P7, he wants to push himself up to P6. He knows what it's like to be at the top. He's tasted the top. I don't know if it's necessarily been this league, no, but he's been near and up there. And there you go on your screen. Ooh, those rear tyres for Danny Coe are not looking healthy at 43% compared to the 40% on the right rear for both drivers. They're getting a bit worn.
I do feel like something's got to change here for Danny Coe. He's had a really good change in form lately, but this is where yeah, it is now. But as I was saying, Danny Coe, he does have this issue lately, though. We do know when he gets into this almost close battle, he always seems to struggle slightly. Compared to the start of the season, he's really had a turnaround. But there is still quite a bit to work on, and there is still quite a way to go. Even still with only 3 races left of the season, a lot could change, as we know, from real-life F1 and just from sim racing and motor racing in general. It's still there, though, for Danny Coe that I think he just needs a little bit more of a push. He's got the ERS advantage over the two in front of him, but as soon as he gets the right point to go for it, he's definitely going to take, I would say, P6 and P5.
Yeah, absolutely. There is definite chance for him to do that, and he just needs to, again, much like in Lamland's position, be patient, wait for the opportunity, especially now the pit stop window is now open. We're going to see drivers, the earliest point to switch from their, I think they said mediums, but I don't really think, I don't think there really is anybody going for the mediums. They're all on hard, but we've got a few drivers popping in the pits, that being Lopez from P2, opting that this is the right time to switch over to the medium set of tyres.
Oh, it's a very risky move there from Andres Lopez and Tuomas Lamminen. They want to get that undercut. Oh no, Alexander Dimas, Stefano, they want to get that undercut, but I do think it's a very risky strategy. As, you know, I heard how surprised you were, and I think a lot of people will be surprised with that, because most of the time you will maybe pit a lap or two later, or when your rivals pit. But I think they're just wanting to pip Alexander Dimas and Stefano to the lead for Andres Lopez for the lead. And, of course, Tuomas Lamminen will be hoping for it, but you've still got Andres Lopez in front. But we're gonna have to see how they do, because they might be used by Alexander Dimas and Stefano as almost guinea pigs slightly to see, are the mediums fast enough, or are they still about level with these tyres?
Yeah, but you don't want to waste too long deciding what you want to do. If you're going to make that move, you got to make it now, because you've got to cover the undercut. But at the same time, you are right, they could be feeding information if they have race engineers. They could be looking at the lap times, but no race engineer for Dimas. Instead, it's react to what's going to happen. So has that one lap on those mediums worked out well? How strong is this undercut? We're going to drop down to P11, where Andreas Lopez is, and he's got a lovely Mercedes ahead of him that might pose a little bit of a problem and slow down the necessary pace that he needs. Drop back straight to where the trundling Haas driver is. It's going to be close. There is the AlphaTauri. It's going to be tight to the exit. They come into turn 2. It's not one position, but 2 positions lost for Dimas. And on the inside, you can see Lamminen is going to get past Stefano. So the overcut working brilliantly for Lopez.
Like I said to you, it's a risk, but these two guys have taken it, but it's what they needed, because also, think about for Tuomas Lamminen, he could now be going at Alexander Dimas for P2 here. This is what I was talking about. They've just proven, and there is a driver off, and that's not Frankie in P5 at the moment. Still hasn't pitted yet, but that's quite a big incident. But for Andres Lopez, this is everything he wanted. This currently will extend his lead in the championship, like he's been waiting for all race. And this could be, in my opinion, a championship changer. I think this really changed up something here, especially also for other drivers like Tuomas Lamminen. This is also a massive change if he can overtake Alexander Dimas, currently for 8th, but they have pitted, remember. You know, this could give Tuomas Lamminen the push he needs to then fight for a further position. And we did see M2T missed the pit lane entry, which was a bit strange to see, but Tumas Lammen is chasing down Alexander Dimas, both quite low on EIS at the moment. But what a crazy pit stop strategy. I mean, we've seen it before, but I don't think we've ever seen it come that close, but be that almost that much of a showing between cold tires and up to temperature tires.
I think what also helped was M2's T mitts getting in the way of Dimas. You could see how much frustration we were watching him while Dimas was trying to get past the Mercedes driver. The wiggles left and right, looking for opportunities and being very optimistic in his overtaking. Yes, he is technically the faster driver, but not in this sense. These guys are still fairly equal, no matter where you are on the grid. He was getting frustrated, and that was a frustrated drive, and now he's burned all his ERS just to try and catch up to Lopez. And you know Lopez is going to have that little bit of extra ERS to save himself. He's going to round the final corner, and no, he's not going to be close enough for the DRS. You're not going to see the wing open up, and that's another disappointing sight for Dimas. And he's going to be kicking himself.
But it's going to be a very happy sight for Tumas Laminen, who hasn't had the best of pace. We can't lie about that. But he is one driver that we know will save ERS, but who is probably, in my opinion, the best driver on the grid, best driver on track for it as well. He's had some crazy races, especially back in France, he proved it. But here, and right now, he's got the ERS advantage quite a lot over Alexander Dimas, as we know, and also over Andres Lopez, who are both pushing and who both have below 10% ERS now. And Tumas Laminen's just sitting here, not pushing. And these guys have flashing lights on the rear of their car. If you want to know how I can tell that they have less than 10% ERSs, because you can see on the back, and that's a big telling factor. And Andres Lopez, 3-second time penalty.
Oh, that does turn things around.
That's going to hurt Andres Lopez. All of that fighting to get in front with the pit strategy going risky. And at the moment, he's going to drop down to P3 now. This is really going to damage his championship.
Can you, for me, because you've got access to this, can you check Dimas? How many warnings is Dimas on? Because if he's on a good spree here, he's going to be laughing his head off. But that's going to be ever so handy for himself. We drop further back as well, just to point out, Danny Coe is really trying to put pressure on Maloney, but is finding no success to get past the Ferrari driver, and Maloney trying to also get past Tim Alders. Epic, what's the news? How many warnings does Dimas have?
2.
2, so he's on his last warning. So
pretty much everybody has 2 warnings.
Yeah, so both of them realistically are playing this very dangerous game right now, where they need to play safe than sorry. And I don't know how much they know about each other, whether they're listening to the stream. If you are, you've now gathered the most important information. But if you're Laminen and Dimas, and if you have a race engineer, my words are, play it safe and bring it home. That's all I say to them.
One thing for Tumas Laminen that he does have an advantage is that he's got the advantage in EIS, and he's also got the advantage in track position, because Andres Lopez doesn't have DRS on anybody. And here actually comes Alexander Dimas, talking about a driver, talking about Alexander Dimas. He's going for it on Andres Lopez. He doesn't want to be held up by his championship rival. He wants to go for it into turn 1. He brakes later. He's got the line. He does make it through turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3. And Alexander Dimas retakes the lead here in Imola.
It's a strategical move to do that. What he's doing, he knows Laminen is a threat to his race win. So put a car that isn't in this fight anymore between yourself and the driver ahead. Yes, he is now vulnerable from Lopez, but he knows he can let Lopez pass at any point and that won't affect him. All he needs to do is bring this car home in this position in front of Laminen. But Imola is known for penalties. You can already see there are 5 drivers with time penalties. That is a lot of drivers. And it's all so easy to make that one mistake, and that's your race ruined. But I tell you who also is looking quite pretty and a chance for a podium, Stefano. He's 6 seconds ahead, nearly 7 seconds ahead of Tim Alders. Yeah, he's not fighting with his pack, but he's happy in P4. And if he makes sure he's close enough to Lopez within that 3-second mark, that's a podium for himself.
And here comes Tumas Laminen.
Yep.
On Andres Lopez. We expect to see that, but this is actually going to give him a good run on Alexander Dimas into turn 1. That was a big run on Alexander Dimas there. As you were saying about Stefano, very good day from this driver, to be honest. He is really doing well out there in that Aston Martin. He is starting to prove himself. Of course, you know, he is a very good driver. He's the Italian driver, reserve driver as well. Last race, he got P5, remember. So at the moment, this is going to be even better for him. But this will also be very important because at the moment, he will overtake Andres Lopez for 3rd. And so Andres Lopez will currently lose 13 points to Alexander Dimas. If I quickly check one thing of fastest lap, yes, he will currently lose out P3. And this is going to be very worrying because Andres Lopez is also losing time as well to these front two. But talking about these front two of Alexander Dimas and Tumas Laminen, who are just going for it, and they want, one of them wants to take the win. This is the battle for the win here. Coming across the line for lap 22, and Alexander Dimas is pushing. Remember, Tumas Laminen has the DRS, and M2T is out. It looks like he's in the wall. Driver is
Safety
off.
car. Safety car. Oh, wow.
Kristen is in. Kine is in. These are big. The top 8 didn't make it. This, I mean, this is going to be something. This is race changing here. I have no words.
This is the strategy now. The question is, do you pit because the front runners have gone past the start finish line, and now they have the option here. Do we pit to start softs? Do we go for a fresh medium, or do we hold track position? There are 3 options here that they can do, and it's all gonna be here and now. We're gonna stick with the front runners and see what they choose.
Alexander Dimas is going to be the leader out of these guys because if he goes in, the rest will go in. The one weakness Alexander Dimas does have is that he's got the last pit box. So if somebody else gets a faster pit stop, he will lose out. But talking about losing out in the pits as well, Tumas Laminen, second pit box, of course, second closest pit box. This will mean he might lose out from other drivers behind them coming in. And so I am slightly worried here for Tumas Laminen that he might actually lose out if he does go into the pits. But we will see. I suspect Alexander Dimas is going to do a massive fake move into the pits. What is he going to do? He's going to go. Yes, he is going in. Laminen stays out.
Oh, Laminen confident with his tyres, confident with his pace, happy with what he's got. And that's him going, yep, you know what? You go into the pits. I will happily stay out. And the thing is, all these front runners can pit and be happy with what they got. Tim Alders, Maloney not pitting. They're going for track position. Candy King not pitting.
This is important because this has just put 3 drivers who were having pretty decent pace.
Drive-through penalty for Perez.
But as I was saying, only, you know, these 3 drivers, Maloney, Candy King was about half a second to 8 tenths off per lap, but Maloney and Tim Alders only around 3 tenths off per lap, 2 to 3 tenths. This will make it very difficult to overtake these guys because there's only one DRS zone. But this has once again brought the great battle over the championship between Alexander Dimas and Andres Lopez, 5th and 6th. So is Andres Lopez going to try make an overtake and just hold up Alexander Dimas so he can't gain any more points?
Possibly that would be the best strategy for him, and Lopez is going aggressive with the soft tyre. But you can see the likes of Candy King, Maloney, Tim Alders, those medium tyres realistically haven't done a lot. So you can see why they've decided to stay out. Why not? You're like, the tyres are still fairly fresh in a sense. But Dimas, Lopez, Stefano, Danico, Tristan, Kinty, not Frankie, and Sumatra are going to have these really, really fresh tyres to make a good attack.
I don't know how this is going to go. I've said it before. All of these guys have such good pace. They're all so close. It doesn't matter if you're at the front or the back. We've seen it. We saw it back in Bahrain where crazy strategies can win a race. But Tumas Laminen has no choice now but to stay out. So his chance to go in wasn't going to happen. But remember, Tuomas Laminen, like we were saying about the driver who started DNF Corridor, is also very good at defending. And that's going to make it very difficult. But we also know Maloney and Tim Alders have been doing some amazing work out there with defending and overtaking. So it might be difficult to get past them as well. And so at the moment, I would say the top 3 are still up for contention in this race. You know, it could still be Maloney, Tim Alders, and Tuomas Laminen. And this has gone the very wrong and very bad way for Alexander Dimas, who now has to get past 4 drivers to retake the lead.
It has gone badly for them, and it's one of those, when you get a safety car, it's the do you not, the what ifs. There's a lot of questions you put forward, and it's making that snap decision at that point. Clearly, for them, it's not worked, and they're now stuck behind 4 other drivers, where Dimas was leading this race. Is it still the right call? He is in a stronger car. It's going to be faster. The only thing we can say, it's going to be a little bit faster. He's going to have that extra grip. He's able to attack more. We're going to have to wait and see what is decided. We're going to be crossing over the Sector 3 line roundabout now. So drivers still not close to line unless they come to the very last second. We might get a last minute call. Or are we doing one more lap? We are doing one more lap. And then we should be racing once again.
Also, by the way, this safety car is good for Tuomas Laminen. Because he's saving tyre wear. He's saving tyre wear and he's saving time out there. Because this just means that this is actually hurting Alexander Dimas, because he's losing opportunities each lap longer this goes. So we will only get racing on lap 26. And I would say you could only make about 1 overtake per lap. So it's going to take him about 3 laps just to get up to Tuomas Laminen. And so that will be around lap 29 to 30 by the time he'll get up there. And so he won't have great amount of opportunities, because we know Tuomas Laminen, he has very good pace. He's up there with them. And yes, Alexander Dimas might have a bit better pace, but he'll be under threat from Andres Lopez, who's on the soft. You know, because Andres Lopez doesn't want Alexander Dimas to go up the order. So we know what Andres Lopez is going to do. He's going to try and go for it and send it into turn 1 or into this hairpin that we're coming up to here. And that's going to be something that could be, you know, will be going through Alexander Dimas' mind. Who's going to try and hold me up, but who's going to try and attack me at the same time? And so, and he's also in a very well-known position for being quite unlucky. As I've been looking, every driver who's been 5th in the safety car, when a safety car goes in, they've actually lost positions off the start so far this season. Just quite an unlucky position to be in. So we could actually be seeing a very close win for Tuomas Laminen, or for any driver still out there, or we could be seeing some heartbreak for Alexander Dimas, because it could go any way, as safety car is in this lap.
33% on the rear tyre of Laminen and only 30% for Tim Alders. So Alders have been looking after their tyres a lot better than Laminen. Just to let you know, and a reminder, all these drivers are fighting for position. Nothing is stopping them. So Tim Alders, who we weren't really speaking about here, for a chance for a win, and Maloney, who wasn't in this contention for winning, now has a realistic shot at winning the Imola Grand Prix. As we round the second to last corner, Laminen is effectively the safety car. He chooses when he pounces, but he has to commit. Rounding the final corner, this is the type of track, realistically, we see drivers wait to the very last second. You can see the Red Bull getting as much temperature as he can. And there we go, we're pouncing once again. And Tim Alders was not ready for it. And Tim Alders has already lost out. We look back and you can already see the likes of Dimas. He ain't wasting any time to get past the first of the Haas drivers. He's put himself in a great position. Lopez is also gone and overtaken because Candy King's gone straight on. So Dimas has got one sorted. He's still trying to get heat in that tyres, but he's still got another 3 drivers to overtake to reclaim his position. But Lopez is strong. Lopez is tapped and caused Dimas to spin. Both of them are going to drop out the points. And what was looking to be a championship fight is now going to move on to the next race into China. Lopez holds his lead. A bit of a dirty strategy but it will go to the stewards.
Yeah, I do. I think I do believe that Alexander Dimas will get a penalty for that. From Andres Lopez's POV, Alexander Dimas stayed to the middle and then he moved over to the right. I don't think he was expecting Andres Lopez to send it around the outside, but Andres Lopez had a good run on him though, which does make you think possibly was it a bit of squeezing out onto the grass to try and stop him getting by. We're not sure. We'll have to leave that up to the stewards to decide, of course. But has this just allowed Tuomas Laminen just to be a little bit more comfortable? Of course, he's still got Tim Alders, but Maloney on Tim Alders, trying to look for it. He's saving it. He wants to give Tim Alders a bad run out of these first three corners. Tim Alders actually does quite well to hold with it, but this is actually quite interesting now because these top three, Alexander Dimas and Andres Lopez, are out of the chance of winning, but we've still got, you know, Tim Alders and Maloney, the drivers who we never thought had a chance of winning, now do, but they've got to overcome the very fast and very confident Tuomas Laminen right now, and we know when Tuomas Laminen is confident, he's really got good pace over other drivers.
He's got massive pace over the drivers, and you can already see breaking 0.8 of a second. He's going hard, he's going fast. He found that opportunity when Maloney attacked Alders. That was his chance to go, you know what? If them two are going to squabble, I'm going to try and pull away. Put some security and a safety net for himself. But it's now going to be Stefano's turn to try and get himself a podium. This would be great for Stefano. He would be happy with it. He got 10 points in his last race, in his opening chance. Now, for an opportunity for himself, DRS will be enabled. Nobody will get it on this straight, but on the next time, on lap 29, we'll be seeing the DRS open up, but nobody is really close enough to mount an attack, and I don't really think Dimas is out of the chance to get points as well. He's only 0.7, 0.6 behind Candy King, so he technically could get a point and close the gap by 1, which will put him to 27 points. But every little helps in this matter, and in this case, every little bit does massively help.
It definitely does. I mean, you might be stealing some lines from somewhere, but you are right though that every little does help Alexander Dimas right now, as even 1 point or 2 points, it's all he needs to claw back into this championship. Because at the moment, if Andres Lopez, for instance, in the next couple of races, just keeps enough of a lead, going into the last race, as it stands with points, if they went into the last race with this amount of points, Alexander Dimas would be out of the chance. And so this could matter 1 or 2 points. We saw it back in 2021 in real life F1 between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. It came down very close between the two drivers, and it could be the same here. But massive disappointment though for Alexander Dimas.
Sorry, Epic. Round the outside, Stefano. Actually to the inside, technically, onto Maloney, and he finds himself and puts himself into 3rd position. He's been waiting for this the entire race. He's put himself happily on the podium, and now he's going to eye up for 2nd because he's got the ERS, he's got the power, and he's also got the fresher tyres. There's a chance here that realistically we might be looking at Stefano maybe wanting to challenge the leader as well, but he will have to clear the Mercedes as soon as possible.
Yeah, remember, Stefano does have the tyre wear on his side, but what he doesn't have on his side is track position, nor does he have straight line speed on his side. He had to use about 30% ERS, around 30 to 40% ERS just to get past Maloney. He saved ERS this lap, but think about trying to get past Tim Alders, a very good driver as we know, and a very good driver at defending, and then Tuomas Laminen. And in a very short amount of time, because as Tuomas Laminen is about to come around this last corner, there's only going to be 3 laps of this race to go. He hasn't got much time left. And also, remember, Tim Alders now has DRS on Tuomas Laminen, and he is pushing. Let's see, can Stefano make a move? No, he's letting off for now. So this will probably leave him down to just 2 laps to make a move as Danny Coe round the outside of Maloney into turn 1 and through turn 2 as Frankie retires in the pits. But what a move from Danny Coe. He is having a massive comeback today. Remember, he was down in about P8, P9 for a lot of the race. Could he possibly be a podium contender now?
If he's got the pace to continue like that, then more than likely he does. You have to remember, Maloney, Tim Alders, and Laminen did not pit, so fresh tyres are really coming out strong, and they are showing their pace. So I would like to see Danny Coe. This is his best points position for this season. I think he'd be actually tying his best, yeah, because he came in 4th in Portugal. He would happily go a lot better. Stefano is on a lot fresher tyres. Look at that. A lot of green compared to the yellow. So the Alfa Romeo pushing hard and wanting to do a lot of damage. But we're rounding the corner with 2 laps to go. Has Tim Alders got anything? Has Tim Alders got any form of attack to put onto Laminen as he comes round the start-finish straight? Well, I say straight, it's more of a banana curve. He's closing down, he's closing, looks to the inside, the change of lead, and it's going to be in favour for Mercedes.
What a move there from Tim Alders. He made it clear into turn 1, into the braking zone. He wanted it. But remember, Thomas Laminen will be going for it on the last lap. I think we both know that. I think Thomas Laminen has put strategy before track position. You know, we've seen these moves happen as we see. Tim Alders is struggling now for tyre wear. But also look at the EOS difference. 13% for Tim Alders and 43% for Thomas Laminen. We know Thomas Laminen is going to be absolutely sending it on the straight, and as we've seen here today, if you get past on the straight, you pretty much have the lead or that position for the rest of the lap.
You do have the lead for the rest of the lap. Rounding turn 14 and 15, you can see the Red Bull. It's a monster of a car in real world 2023. And it is going to be in the virtual 2022 game. You can see the rear end of Alders. It's not looking happy. It's not looking square. But you've got to be careful of the Aston Martin behind, because Stefano's also got some fresher tyres as well. We come round to the final lap. It's a do or die straight. There goes the Red Bull. The Red Bull's going to take the lead of the race, but it's going to be Stefano. Looks to go around the outside as well. He's going to try and push himself up into P2. He gains P2. So Stefano capitalizes on the opportunity. Thomas Laminen finds himself back into the lead. And it's going to be Tim Alders having to fend off the fiery Danny Coe for the remainder of this lap. And you know Danny Coe will probably try and lunge it somewhere in an inconvenient place. It's the last lap, the last opportunity. Your next real place that maybe if you could do a lunge would be into turn 12, but you have to be ridiculously close, of which Danny Coe is not, and he's gonna have to hold back and wait till the end, where the last opportunity is turn 17 and drag racing it down at the exit of turn 18 through 19 and 20, but we head to the front. We never thought that Laminen would find himself in this position. He was at the back of the train. He was fighting just for a podium. Who would have thought the Red Bull driver would come out today and win the Imola Grand Prix?
What a win from Thomas Laminen. Oh, there's a car off in the background. I think that's Kine, actually. Yeah, it was. I just saw that. I just saw this Ferrari come across the screen out of nowhere. He did lose out to Alexander Dimas in the end. But that does mean Alexander Dimas has gained 3 points over Andres Lopez. Interesting race though. Couple of drivers to point out. Danny Coe, what a race from this guy. Up 6 places. But what about trademark Tristan? Up 9 places. Up into 5th, just behind Danny Coe. He almost sent it on Danny Coe into the last corner. But what a race from Tristan. I've got to say, it was a great race from everybody. You know, that last contact between Alexander Dimas and Andres Lopez really changed things up. But there's so much to talk about from this race. Also, Ivan Santamaria, 7th. You know, how has this race been so good? You know, for quite a lot of it, we thought this was going to be a pretty simple race. But it proved to be the complete opposite.
It definitely had its moments of quiet. And, you know, there was, of course, the pressure in esports F1. That is very clear. There's a lot of time where it's a stalemate. It's the mind game that does come out. But then you start to get moments like this where something comes around and the drama is formed. So a quick rundown of the grid. Laminen will take the win starting from P3. Stefano finding that second place. A brilliant run for himself. Tim Orders in P3. Danny Coe started P10, finds himself P4. Tristan started P14, now in P5. Maloney P8, Santa Maria P7. Dimas finds himself with points in P8. Kinty in P9. Lopez only finds 1 point out of that race. Candy King P11, not Frankie, does not make a great appearance in P12. Perez in P13 does not finish. MZT, Cordor, and Ian Van Unen all did not finish the race. And yeah, what a dramatic race.
Oh, we spoke about Abu Dhabi. You know, we said that was a crazy race, and that was one crazy one. But this one, the late drama in the race, I think has really made it a highlight of this season. We were saying about the battle between Alexander Dimas and Andres Lopez, but Alexander Dimas has just gained 3 points on Andres Lopez, and so he is within 25 points now. And so he has closed in, although it's not much, it's just enough for the moment. But I've got to know, who is your driver of the day?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because there's a couple of good names in there. Danny Coe's definitely up there, finding himself in P4, showing what he's capable of. But then again, Laminen finding himself in a brilliant position, playing it safe, playing it strategically. There's a few names I could say. I can't say there is one that really stands out to me, but there is definitely a few that definitely do pop the top.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's close, like you said. I do have one driver. You know, it doesn't matter how much I love the way that Tuomas Laminen did win this race and how well he did. I've just got to give it to Danny Coe. He pushed his way up the field. It wasn't like he just, because of because of a couple of crashes, a couple of incidents, he made his way up the field. He was consistently there. He was on the back of everybody. He made very brilliant and difficult overtakes. And that's why he earns my driver of the day.
Yeah, and we're going to be moving on to the next race. The championship is still undecided. There is still chance for Dimas to win this. So we're going to move over to China number 1. It's going to be back at China. It's been a while. It has really been a while since I have actually commentated. Actually, I don't think I have commentated a Chinese Grand Prix in the what? 2-3 years I've done F1 commentary. I've not done China, and I've raced on it. Brilliant track and definitely poses some brilliant racing and overtaking opportunities, but I've never commentated it, so I look forward to it.
Me neither. It is a good track though. I don't think anybody can disagree. It's a good track for, I think, real life F1, but I think it's just it's by far got to be top 10 tracks for sim racing. It's so beautiful, especially on the F1 game. It's a tough track though, long corners, difficult, hard braking zones. But overall, I think next week, everybody's going to enjoy it there.
Yeah, and just a final few words from you, Epic. What last things to say before we end the stream?
I really don't have any words, to be honest, but I guess my only words are just amazing. Another spectacular race to the season.
Well, if you enjoyed the action, you know where to look. You always come here to WOR for the action. But if you're looking for the professionals to fight it out, then stay tuned. Because come next week, Sunday, the professionals are back at it. Tier 1, PC Tier 1 are fighting it out like no other. And I believe it's tomorrow. We're going to have the Tier 1 Xbox fighting it out as well. But if you want us and the lovely voices of myself and Epic, stay tuned next week where we head to China.